Hey girlies, just a quick reminder before we dive into today's episode. The information shared on this podcast is intended to be general sports nutrition advice and education related to period recovery for female athletes. This is not specific to any one individual, and it may or may not apply to your situation. If you are looking for personalized guidance, be sure to apply to our RBSN Period Recovery Nutrition Coaching Program. Our 4-month period recovery program is designed to help you sustainably get your period back and keep it. You can apply now to get started in our program, and we'll leave the link for the program below. If you're not quite ready for that one-on-one approach, that's exactly why we created the Period Recovery Guide. It's designed to support the girlies working on period recovery, specifically if you've lost it due to hypothalamic amenorrhea. The full Period Recovery Guide is finally out now, and we will leave all of the information for it in the podcast show notes. This is the Eat More Carbs Podcast. Hello and welcome back. This is the Eat More Carbs Podcast. It's Jenna here with Reilly. We are both dietitians and we talk every Thursday about sports nutrition for the girlies. Today's episode, we're talking all about how to get your period back. Before we get into some of today's topics, we are going to do our high and low. So sharing just a little bit about our week, the good, and the part we wish had gone a little bit differently. So as always, Reilly, can you kick us off?
I'm going to actually start off with my low. I am really excited that we're having today's episode because I feel like I'm having the conversation about BMI and body image with so many athletes. And it honestly really breaks my heart because one, I feel like we're ignoring hypothalamic amenorrhea with the athletic population. So many athletes are of a normal BMI. And I feel like I keep having this conversation where people are like, it can't be a fueling issue. That's not why I have low energy availability, because my doctor said I'm okay because I have a normal BMI. And Jenna, I don't know if this is something that you're seeing as well, but I feel like HA is going underdiagnosed, and we don't really care about it as a society or as a problem because most athletes have a normal BMI.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that there are so many people that come into the period recovery program who have been told that it's okay because they're sitting at a normal weight or a normal height to weight ratio or however we want to look at that, but they don't have a period. And in reality, that's not a normal thing. And it isn't something that sets our health up for long-term success.
I feel like I just started off the podcast with a bummer because I'm very grumpy about it. I don't know. I feel like we owe female athletes so much more than just saying you're okay because you're a certain weight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, even though that's a little bit of a bummer way to start the podcast, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but that's why we have this podcast, and that's why hopefully you're listening in because you're trying to learn more about this and get more information on it, and hopefully, today's episode's going to be helpful. So, starting off with a bummer, but I do actually have a really exciting high that I'm really excited to share. I have shared a little bit before, but if you are a new listener to the Eat More Carbs podcast, my mom is actually from England. My mom grew up in Europe, and my grandparents lived in England most of my life, and my grandma lives in Wales now. So in a couple of weeks, my husband Robs is actually going on a business trip. He's going to Cardiff, which is a city in Wales, and it coincidentally is 30 to 45 minutes away from where my grandma lives. So I'm going to be joining him, which I'm really excited about. Coincidentally, Jenna, I might get to see you too, which I'm so excited about because I think I'm going to actually be coming in to London the day that you're getting into London.
Oh my gosh, wait, this is my high. Crazy that we have to go all the way around the world for RBSN to meet in person, but I guess we can share this as part of my high too. My husband and I found great deals to fly overseas for a short trip this summer. So we were why not do it? Go ahead and book the tickets. So we did. Like Reilly said, we're going to be in London. We know officially now that we're going to be there at the same time. It was kind of we were back and forth on whether or not Robbie was going to have to go before we were there, but I am so excited and I can't wait to hopefully see you in London.
What time do you get in from Paris?
I think we get there around 10:30, maybe 11 in the morning. When do you get there?
I'm leaving Cardiff at 8. I joked offline, but I'm going to come to your annual honeymoon. So sorry, Nolan, I'm joining you. You can't escape RBSN.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm so excited. I can't wait to do all the London things together.
I know. I'm so excited. I just cannot believe it's happening. And I was so excited that, not so excited that his trip got pushed, but I was this is crazy. So Jenna, we get to see each other twice this year.
Well, this is making up for all the years that we didn't see one another. Reilly and I did our internship together at University of Nevada in Las Vegas, and we had a pact that once we graduated, we were going to see each other at least once every year. And then then things like COVID happened and moves and all sorts of things. So that didn't end up really working out the way we wanted it to, but we tried. So now we're just making up for lost time.
We do have ambitious goals.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited. That's definitely my high. So wow, all the European highs this morning, I guess.
I was waiting to share with you on the podcast. I have known for like a couple of days, but I was like, I have to just, share it with her on the podcast.
I have been waiting for you to tell me. My low is that Reilly waited this long to tell me because I've been hopeful that we would get to see one another. But man, wow. Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, me too. I can't wait.
Well, see you soon. So excited. Okay, well, this has just been the best day ever for me personally. So I hope all of you have the best day ever now. I don't even have anything else to say. I'm just like so excited. I could cry.
I know. I probably will cry.
Oh, 100%. When I saw you in Sedona, I was like, oh, you're a real person. RBSN is having the best morning ever. We hope you have the best day ever. And we hope you enjoy this episode on getting your period back. I'm super excited to talk about this with you, Reilly. Like we shared earlier, we are going to be talking about BMI today and normal BMI and what that means for not having a period. On this podcast, we talk a lot about LEA, HA. We use a lot of these acronyms. So Reilly, do you mind sharing or just like defining what those mean real quick before we get into some of the BMI questions?
Yes. So like Jenna mentioned, you are going to hear us use a lot of these acronyms on today's episode. Most commonly, you are probably going to hear the acronym HA, which stands for hypothalamic amenorrhea. Hypothalamic amenorrhea is defined as the absence of the menstrual cycle. There are a couple different types of amenorrhea. You have primary amenorrhea, where the absence of a menstrual cycle at 15 years of age or later, or secondary hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is the absence of the menstrual cycle for 3 or more months. Both of these are commonly present in athletes. Unfortunately, they are common in athletes because of low energy availability, or LEA, which is another one of those acronyms that you're going to hear us talk about today. An athlete that has LEA, or is in a state of low energy availability, basically has a mismatch of the energy coming in and the energy coming out. This is very common in athletics because of the high training load that female athletes experience. When this is occurring, there's just not enough energy to go around to fuel your body and all of the bodily processes that make you a human, and then also enough to fuel your training. When this happens, our body starts to downregulate certain systems to help protect it from this low energy availability, or almost this like starvation state. One of the processes that gets downregulated is going to be the reproductive system, and therefore female athletes are going to be aware of this or notified of this basically because of the absence of a menstrual cycle.
You used the word that it is very common, unfortunately, for athletes to experience the loss of a period. But just because it's common does not mean that it's normal. On today's episode, we are talking about normal BMI and whether or not that means that you can't have a missing period due to LEA, which I think is a really interesting thing. I know that you get a lot of questions about this through Instagram, and we get a lot of questions through the podcast about having a normal appearing or having a healthy appearing weight and feeling like therefore you should have a normal menstrual cycle. Why might this not be the case?
Because it's not about BMI, right? It's about energy availability. And I'm really glad that we're having this episode today because I feel like it's long overdue. We have this conversation all the time. Not to go off on a rant or a tangent at the beginning of this podcast, but I often feel like HA is actually ignored by the medical community because it often affects individuals who have a normal BMI, with air quotes.
We've definitely had people apply to the program, and then in a discovery call, we've been chatting about what have they done in the past to address this? Have they met with a physician? And sometimes they even say that they, told their care provider that they had a missing period, but they said, but you're fine. You have a normal BMI. You appear healthy, so it's okay. But that's not necessarily the case. I want to highlight that when Reilly mentioned that LEA is low energy availability, that means that when we are asking our body to perform, we're asking our body to do things, if there's not energy present, that's a state of low energy availability. And asking our body to do things like run a whole bunch of miles, compete in a game, and if there's not fuel present for that, the body is in a state of low energy availability. Really, that's what's happening for so many athletes, is that we're underfueling and therefore the energy is not present when we need it.
Yes, I'm so glad that you clarified that. Oftentimes, I feel like athletes think it has to do with weight. Yes, weight might play a part in it, but it's about energy availability.
Weight, like you said, is a component for some athletes, but for so many athletes, they are experiencing life in a normal sized body or a healthy appearing body or are classified as a normal BMI, but they still don't have a period because we're underfueling or we're not fueling at the right times to support the things that we're asking our bodies to do.
Yes, I really struggle with this conversation and I really hate this conversation because there's so many general statements that have been thrown out there. Like if you Google or, you look at Reddit or things like that are related to period recovery and how to get your period back. And I feel like this is one of the biggest misconceptions and it's holding so many people back because we're making it a weight issue and it is a energy availability issue. Like I just said, I'm reiterating it because I'm so passionate about it.
If you're concerned about weight changes going through period recovery, definitely check out our episode on do I need to gain weight in order to get my period back, where we talk about some of the other symptoms that you might be feeling or experiencing that are sometimes interpreted as weight or body modification changes that might not actually be what's happening. So that's definitely a great episode where we kind of talk more about like the changes in our body that we might be seeing during the period recovery process that happen to almost all athletes regardless of their BMI. I do want to talk a little bit about like what BMI is because we've been saying it a lot, but we haven't really like talked about what BMI means.
It's your body mass index. It's a ratio between your height and your weight. I'm pretty sure it's like from a scale from like the 1920s.
Yeah, it's a very dated system. So we don't love BMI in the first place because it's not an accurate representation as you as a whole athlete. That's why at RBSN, we want to look at so many more things beyond just your current body weight. Is weight something that we might be talking about based on the safety of an athlete? Definitely. That's not off the table, but it's not the only thing that we are looking at when it comes to do we have energy available when we need it.
We've talked about this so many times on this podcast, but this journey looks different for everybody. It looks so different and we can't always assume that it's going to be just because of one thing. And I think this is really holding a lot of people back because they think if I do this one thing or if I eat this one thing or if I gain this weight, then I'll get my period back. And it is a much more complex topic and a much more individualized approach is needed.
I could not agree more. It's also something that like once you have a quote unquote like normal classification of BMI, that doesn't mean your period's going to come back. So let's say that you did have a lower BMI and then your body weight changed and you were then classified as normal BMI. That still doesn't mean that your body has energy available and that you're going to get your period back. So it works kind of both ways, I feel like.
Yeah. I think sometimes too, we think about BMI as like, just because you've increased BMI doesn't mean you're more fueled or vice versa. I think it's just a ratio that we've made up, like to be completely honest. And it's stressing a lot of people out. On our last episode, we talked about like calorie counting. And I feel like this is a little bit of like a similar topic is like we're sold to these numbers that like have been kind of made up.
Yes. That's such a great point because we do kind of have these like starting points that we recommend or even these like starting metrics that might be good in some cases, but not in all cases. And I think this is a great example of that it's not for all people that are working on period recovery that means low BMI equals no period, normal BMI equals period. It's not that simple.
It's not. And I think so many people are confused because they're like, it can't be nutrition related because I have a normal BMI. So that must mean I'm fueled. It's like, no. Sorry guys, it doesn't work like that.
I think one of the really common things that we see is underfueling presenting in multiple different ways. I think we often think that underfueling looks one way, which would be total low energy intake, which yes, that is true. But we can have low energy availability or underfueling looking so many different ways.
Yes. Not to confuse everybody who is listening to this episode now, but you can also be underfueled and still have your period.
Yeah. Ooh, yes. We were actually talking about that like maybe yesterday or today. I can't really remember. Can you explain how that happens?
Yeah. So I think it kind of goes back to like underfueling doesn't have a look or like underfueling isn't like X, Y, and Z. There's all these symptoms that you possibly could have because you are underfueling, and you might have all of them, you might have one of them. And I think this is really, really important because oftentimes athletes are comparing themselves to other individuals and they're thinking, okay, well, like she does this and like she doesn't eat before practice, like she doesn't eat any carbohydrates, like she's eating 200 grams of protein, but she has her period. Well, she might not have energy, or like she might be constantly thinking about food, or she might be underfueled in different ways. There's just just like so many different, like, I think factors that go into this. And there's also just so many symptoms of being underfueled, the lack of a menstrual cycle being just one of them.
This is such a good point to bring up. I think this is a really important thing to talk about when we start comparing our plates to other people or the people around us, because we assume that just because they have their period that they are fueled appropriately. But when we start to think about like, this is just one of the symptoms, and unfortunately it might be one of the symptoms that you're experiencing, but that doesn't mean that your teammate, your sister, your cousin who does have their period isn't underfueling, just experiencing different symptoms. We talk about this so often, I feel like, with clients, that it's such an unfair symptom to have been dealt is losing your period, but it's one of the most obvious symptoms of low energy availability. So it's really easy to identify. Whereas some of the other symptoms that maybe your cousin, your sister, your teammate are experiencing aren't as obvious as the loss of a period. So they don't even know that they're underfueling. Maybe they're doing just enough to keep their period there, but it's hardly enough to keep them functioning optimally. While yes, it is a really unfair symptom that you're experiencing, that doesn't mean that all the people around you that like you're thinking like, oh my goodness, she doesn't eat that much, or I'm comparing myself to what she's consuming, things like that, that they're not underfueling, just like Reilly said.
Yes, such a good point, because honestly, like even thinking about what you just said, Jenna, like it might seem unfair, but it's almost like a blessing in disguise, because it is a clear sign and symptom that you are underfueling, and therefore you can do something about it, because we don't want it to be, unfortunately, too late when something big happens because you didn't know that you were underfueling.
Exactly. Unfair symptom, but it is kind of a good way to notify you very obviously that we don't have enough energy for your body or for performance. And I think for so many of us being athletes, we want to perform well. We want to be the best on the team. We have big goals for our running PRs and races and things like that. And if we don't know that we're underfueling, it's hard to then start fueling appropriately.
And even to like, if we are making changes and things like that to fuel appropriately, it can be so much more motivating, like once you get your period back and it's a clear sign like, hey, I know how to do this. My body likes this. All the good things are happening now. I'm fueled.
We do have 4 months in our period recovery program, but we have a lot of athletes that even after they get their period back, continue to work with us because they are having like so much success with increasing their fueling and seeing what that means for their athletic potential. So like Reilly mentioned, such an unfair symptom, but it is kind of a blessing in the sense that like we have a clear indication of like we're underfueling and there's something that we can do about this.
Which we love. And we just love when the girlies, when it all clicks and they get their period back and they're ready to maximize performance. It's just such a good feeling.
And it can even like start with small things where within the first 2 weeks of working together, within the first 2 weeks of changing your fueling, you might start to feel more energy and you might start to feel better. And that is a good indication that you are doing the right things in order to get your period back.
I've had an athlete that just joined our period recovery program, and she is a pretty serious wrestler. And she has talked about how she has only been in the program again for like 2 or 3 weeks, but like she has already been so impressed with like how she was able to function before and not eating anything. And like, she was like, I can't believe I was like able to go to practice. And like, I just feel so much better now. Like, how was I functioning before? And it's only been a couple of weeks.
That's so interesting. I had a client who I shared a couple weeks ago on my high that got her period back. And I spoke with her today and we were actually talking about how it's incredible the changes that she has made going from 0 pre-run fuel to eating pre-run fuel that is way more than she ever thought that she could handle. And she was like, I don't know how I ever ran all of those miles without anything. And now we have a great pre-run snack. We have a great intra run and like all of these changes that she's made to support her fueling. It's crazy to see the changes that like from start to finish that happen when you are working on period recovery and how much better athletes feel.
Yeah. I know this client, right, that you were talking about, and like you started with like small sustainable changes with her. And I think that is something that we have talked a lot about on other episodes, but like those small sustainable changes like really, really build off each other. They're sustainable and they make a really big impact.
Yes. Small sustainable changes that add up over time. I think that's one of the big things. We say small sustainable changes a lot, but that doesn't mean that we're only making one small sustainable change. We continually update these small sustainable changes. And then at the end of getting your period back, we look back and we see all of the changes that we made. And it feels like, oh my goodness, like that's a lot of change. But we made that over a longer period of time. So that way it wasn't like all at once we were going from 0 to 100.
Yes. And I also feel like too, with those small sustainable changes, like athletes and clients are getting excited about changing them, right? They're like, oh, I had a tablespoon of honey before my workout and I felt really good. So it's like, let's add another one. I had another one and I felt even better. Like, what else can I change? Like, let's go.
It's so exciting to see that part of the period recovery journey when people start to feel better, perform better, and then want to make more of those changes. Definitely like a huge success, and celebrating all of our clients for sure, wherever they're at in their period recovery journey. It's just such a big win to see everyone make these changes and then sustain them and then get their period back.
They get their period back, maximize performance. Also, I would say like 90% of our clients are, maybe even more, but like are happier too, right? Like they're just so much happier, and you can just even see it in calls.
So true. Speaking of performance, Reilly's running the New York City Marathon and has had some other races in between, which is super exciting. Recently ran a half marathon. Let us know in the comments if we should do a full half marathon episode from Reilly. We did one talking about Mind Brace, so I'm on board for that, but let us know if you'd like to hear a full half marathon race update from Reilly. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eat More Carbs podcast. As always, if you have questions for Reilly and I, please reach out to us. You can find us online. You can find Reilly at easy.sports.nutrition, and you can find me at jenna.fisher.nutrition. Thanks again for listening to this episode. Please make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And as always, remember to eat more carbs.